You might think that night shift workers, nurses, security guards, hospital staff are the ones most familiar with the dark. But the truth is, they're the ones who witness the most terrifying things. In today's video, you'll hear 3 true stories told by those who came face to face with things they still can't explain. A strange man appearing behind a patient's curtain. A figure from the past returning just as your husband steps out. And a seemingly harmless date turning into a living nightmare. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and be careful when you look through the frosted glass. Story 1. The shadow behind the curtain. I'm a nurse, and I've worked at several different hospitals. But there was only one place that made me quit mid-shift, a geriatric hospital about a 30-minute drive from my home. At the time, I was still young, just in my early 20s, and night shifts always dragged on endlessly. But that night, things went far beyond anything I could have imagined. I was assigned to the Alzheimer's unit where patients lived in scattered pieces of memory. The elderly there often said strange things like they were caught between reality and another world. I had gotten used to that. But Lena was different. From the very first time I stepped into her room, she was staring into a corner, whispering, "He's standing there again. The man in black." At first I thought she was just delusional, maybe a more severe form of Alzheimer's. But Lena wasn't like the others. Her eyes were unusually sharp, and there was something in her voice that chilled me to the bone. Her roommate had requested the curtains to be drawn shut from the start of the shift, saying she didn't want to see Lena's face at night. It made me curious, but I didn't ask. By 11 p.m., nearly all the patients were asleep, except for Lena. Every time I stepped into her room, she'd grab my hand, begging, "He's watching me. Don't leave me alone." I'd try to comfort her, gently reassure her, and sit by her side until she closed her eyes. Sometimes I felt like she wasn't really asleep, just pretending to make me feel better. Around 1 a.m., I was alone in the supply room, a small, dimly lit space with no windows. As I was stacking towels on the cart, I heard a whisper behind me. I turned around. No one. Then suddenly, I felt it. A freezing cold hand resting on my shoulder. Firm, heavy, real. I screamed and spun around, but there was nothing. The room was empty. No one was there. I flung the door open and ran into the hallway, gasping for air. No coworkers in sight. The entire wing was dead silent. I tried to calm myself down and headed back. But when I looked up, I saw him. A man dressed entirely in black, standing outside the room door, staring at me through the frosted glass. With a smile so wide, so unnatural, it didn't look human. I froze. I couldn't scream, couldn't move. Only when he disappeared in the blink of an eye did my knees give out and I collapsed to the floor, heart racing. Another nurse came running and helped me up. I asked her, panicked, "Did you see the man in black?" She frowned and said, "There's no one. The cameras are all clear." No one walked down the hallway. I staggered into Lena's room to check on her. She was still awake. And when she saw me, she calmly whispered, "He was right here. But he doesn't want me anymore." I froze. I asked quietly, "Lena, was he smiling?" Her eyes changed. Sharp, focused, almost lucid. She stared straight into mine and asked, "How do you know that I didn't answer?" Then suddenly she screamed, "He's coming. Don't let him in. Don't let him in." The other nurses rushed in to calm her down. As for me, I left that wing that very night. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I texted my supervisor that I was quitting, effective immediately. I've never been diagnosed with any mental health conditions, and I know the effects of sleep deprivation. But that hand on my shoulder, that smile through the frosted glass, Lena's eyes. I still believe I saw something that night. Something that doesn't belong to this world. Story 2. The Visitor in the Dream. 3 years ago, I came down with a severe illness, bacterial meningitis. I live in South Florida, and according to the doctors, my case was rare. No one knew how I caught it, and honestly, I didn't have time to care, because once the pain hit, I couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't anymore. It started with unbearable headaches, dizziness, nausea, and full-body weakness. But the thing that truly terrified me were the voices. When my husband left for work and I was lying in bed alone, I heard a child's voice calling "Mommy" from downstairs. We don't have children. I forced myself out of bed, dragged my body to the stairway, and called my husband's name. No answer. I didn't have the strength to check every room. I just crawled back to bed, half conscious. Then I heard it again. Hello. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and called my husband, screaming into the phone that there was someone in the house. He left work immediately and took me to the hospital. I was given antibiotics right away. The doctor said I made it just in time. Any later and I could have suffered permanent damage, or worse. My husband stayed with me for a few hours but left around 10 p.m. I was still exhausted and drifted off not long after. And then I dreamed. In the dream, David, my ex-husband, the man I ran away from after a toxic marriage, was standing by my hospital bed. He looked at me, stroked my hair, and whispered, "I came the moment I heard he left. I'm so glad you're still alive." He started talking about my current husband with a voice dripping in hatred, like resentment had been festering in him for years. I wish he'd just disappear. I want to do it myself. I jolted awake. The room was dim. One of the chairs had been pulled out facing my bed, even though I clearly remembered it being pushed against the wall when my husband left. I tried to calm myself. It was just a dream. The next morning I told the nurse about it. She paused, then said, "Someone named David dropped by last night. Said he was your cousin." My heart dropped. I don't have any cousins named David. I asked, "Did he leave any info?" She shook her head. "No. Just his name and your room number. Nothing else." I immediately texted David. "Why did you come to the hospital? Did you really say those things to me?" He saw the message read, but didn't reply. So I messaged again. I heard every word. "If you so much as touch my husband, I will call the police." This time he replied, "I didn't say anything like that. Maybe you heard wrong. I only came to see if you were okay. I don't know what's real anymore." I heard a child calling for their mother. I dreamed about David. And that chair, it stayed exactly where it shouldn't have been, like a faint fingerprint from the dream. Since then, I've locked down all my social media. I share nothing personal online. And I've never told my husband what David said, because even now, I don't know if I really heard it or not. Story 3. A date in the abandoned hospital. I met Francesca on Tinder. She was striking red hair with highlights, tattoos covering her arms, a love for exploration. When she invited me to go explore an abandoned hospital for our first date, I thought, why not? We drove out to the place, an old moldy building on the outskirts of town, clearly abandoned. Francesca led the way, weaving through overgrown brush, climbing fences, sneaking around like she'd done this before. The entrance was a broken basement window just big enough to crawl through. She told me to wear torn-up jeans since we'd need to crawl. I laughed. At the time, I still thought it was just some quirky adventure. We only used our phone flashlights. No gear. Nothing professional. Francesca seemed to know the place like the back of her hand, every corridor, every turn. When we reached the first floor, we heard a loud metal door slam shut at the end of the hallway. Francesca fell silent, and I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I whispered, "Is someone else in here?" She replied, "No. Almost no one ever dares come here." We turned off our flashlights, held our breath. Then came the footsteps, heavy, steady, as if someone was walking directly toward us. We ran. Up the stairs to the 3rd floor. We found a gutted room, no walls, just beams and tall concrete pillars. Francesca climbed up first and I followed. We sat on one of the pillar's legs, dangling about 10 feet above the ground. I thought we were safe, until we heard footsteps right beneath us. I pointed my light down, and he was there, a middle-aged man, wearing a black coat, a black beanie, staring straight up at us, smiling. His voice came out low, even, calm. "Come on down," I asked. "Are you a cop?" He didn't answer, just waved, like someone calling a lost child to come home. We panicked, scrambled across the beams, nearly slipping a few times. As we reached the edge of the floor, I saw him vanish from sight, then heard a heavy steel door creak open below. He was circling around. We bolted. Down the stairs, back to the basement. We squeezed through the broken window, terrified, half expecting someone to grab our legs at any second. We made it to the car, locked the doors the second we were inside, sat there panting, silent. Francesca finally spoke. "I've seen people here before, but never like him. I never went back to that place, and I never will." Each story today is a reminder that the most terrifying things aren't always ghosts or demons. Sometimes it's people lurking in the dark and silence in places no one is supposed to be that keep you awake at night. If you've ever experienced something strange, disturbing, or unexplainable, share your story in the comments. Who knows? It might be the next one told here. Thank you for watching. And remember, don't look out the window, unless you're sure you'll like what's looking back.